Welcome to Wealth Made Simple with Shaz, where you'll learn how to master your money through business, property, and tax-saving strategies. Your host has collectively helped his clients make tens of millions of pounds in additional profits through these strategic approaches to business. Introducing Shaz Nawaz, an award-winning chartered accountant, property tax expert, entrepreneur, and property investor.
This week on Wealth Made Simple, though, we are going to cover some myths. I'm not going to say legends, but myths regarding money and wealth. Because there are a lot of them out there, aren't there, Shaz?
There's plenty. And most of them, to be frank, are made up and all in people's heads. They are not reality. They are a figment of their imagination based on perception and just stories that they've heard. So they are, good news is they're easy to overcome once you start believing that they really are myths and not facts, and most definitely not reality.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things here, isn't it? It's understanding the reality of money and wealth versus your perception of money and wealth, because the reality can be very, very different to even what you've been taught. Because, I mean, you hear it all the time, not just in wealth, but in so many things, old wives' tales and things that just aren't true. And as you've got older, there are things that you were taught as a child that as you've got older, you've learned just aren't true.
Absolutely, but you keep believing them for as long as you want to believe them, and then you start searching for alternatives and other options, and you soon find out that kind of some of the things you knew or most aren't really actually correct.
Yeah. No, I mean one of the phrases that gets bandied around a lot, which I like to correct people on because I'm just that type of person. But everyone believes that the phrase is, you can't have your cake and eat it. Which,
yes.
Actually, if I go to the shops, I can buy a cake, so I can have my cake, and then I can eat it. That is true. The actual phrase is, you can't eat your cake and then have it.
Yep.
It messes with your brain a bit more. And it's not so grammatically fluent or fluid, but it's more accurate. But everyone always, but you know what everyone means when they say you can't have your cake and eat it.
Yes.
But it's an inconsistency that everyone believes is correct.
The meaning is different to the words used, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's an inconsistency that everyone just accepts, that most people don't even know they're saying it wrong. They just believe they are correct. And the same is true about, money. And the favorite phrase that people use about money?
You mean the most commonly used or the most popular one?
Yep, that's the one.
Money is the root of all evil.
Now, is that the actual phrase, Shaz, or is that just an abbreviation of the full phrase?
I think that's not the actual thing that they mean. What they really mean is that the love of money is the root of all evil.
And even that I disagree with personally, but
that's what they usually mean, don't they? But this usually mean when they say money is the root of all evil, because money isn't anything. It's just a mechanism, as we've discussed on the other episodes. Okay, it's a means of exchange, barter, call it what you like, and we've covered this in detail on other episodes. Okay, it allows you to buy things and make an exchange. It's a means of exchange. That's it, nothing else.
Yeah, it's a tool. It has no emotion. You might be emotional about money, but money itself has no emotion. It is just a tool. Same as a screwdriver. Just a tool. Does a job.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it says in the tin.
Yep. So that's kind of where we're going to start with our episode today. Is money is not the root of all evil. That is a myth.
So you're going to be a myth buster today.
I would have loved to have been a true myth buster. The science involved in that show was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. But as we know, I am a bit of a nerd, so nobody is surprised to hear that I loved things like that.
Absolutely. Least of all me.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So if money isn't the root of all evil, and like you say, we've covered this on other shows, other episodes. What is money? And we did a deep dive a few weeks back about what is money, where does it come from? A brief history of money, I think it was, didn't we?
Yes, it was. That's right.
But
I think the first thing to say, I guess, from my point of view, Kieran, is what could be evil, and evil is a very strong word to use. And I guess the kind of things that I usually think about that lead people to doing not so good things, whether one wants to call them evil or something else, without getting into semantics, is things like greed, lust,
yes,
egotism.
egotism. Yeah.
I think I've just made up. Yeah, egotism. Yeah, and those kind of things are what leads people to do weird and wonderful things. Jealousy, for example, the 7 deadly sins. They might lead you to do evil things. Now, having excess money, for example, or having money that you think is excess, might lead you to doing naughty things and things that you ought not to do. Do they make a person evil? I mean, we could obviously discuss and debate, and different people will have a different view. But I don't think money or the love of money is a root to all evil. Okay, I think greed most definitely is worse than the love of money in terms of making you do, or encouraging you to, or enabling or allowing you to do bad things.
Yeah, and I mean, I would change the phrase from money is the root of all evil, the love of money is the root of all evil, to greed is the root of a lot of evil.
Absolutely, because I tell you why, Kieran, and you and I've talked about this many times, is when you look at people doing really silly things, okay, not every single thing, but most things, okay, they're usually linked to some form of greed and lust.
Yep.
Whatever that might be. And now, of course, not. I don't mean everything and anything, but quite a few different things, okay, lead to greed and people cheating and deceiving and lying and misconceiving, and usually misinterpreting as well. And then one thing leads to another. So it's those things that lead us to doing things that we ought not to do, because you want more of something, and usually more of something is more money.
Yeah, and I mean, they say that too much of anything can be a bad thing, but
yeah,
I wouldn't even use the word evil. I would say money can be the root of true honesty.
Yes.
Because if you are if you are a fundamentally good human being and you make a conscious decision to be a good person, and you want to help out the community, and you want to do nice things for other people, you want to help other people out, you want to invest in others, startups, etc., 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 an excess amount of money allows you to do an excess amount of good. But that's
absolutely
in line with who you are honestly as a human being. An excess amount of money for someone who is greedy, egotistical, selfish, just allows them to be honest about who they are.
Money exaggerates who you are, Kieran, already, okay? And if you're a nice person and you come into more money, you'll become a even more nicer person.
Yes.
If you're not such a nice person, as you have more money, then more of your true self, okay, becomes who you are, or you start showing more of it, because money can lead to arrogance, and money can lead to big-headedness and all those things. So you become more brave, and you kind of to some extent become careless and reckless what other people think. So you just be who you are, and you were that person all the time. You just weren't able to express it, or refuse to express it for whatever, okay, ulterior or other motive. We don't need to go into the psychology of the whole thing. But I was watching an interesting documentary yesterday, if I call it a documentary, on Sylvester Stallone. And he was talking obviously about his career and how it started, and the success he had with Rocky. But he was talking about once you've done it, or when you're going about your business to do something, and you imagine how life's going to be. And they said when you
Yes.
get there, you've got a blockbuster like Rocky One, and then all of a sudden you're overnight success in people's eyes. So when you get there, said you realize it's not what you wanted, but you also realize it doesn't give you the satisfaction you wanted, and also it brings more challenges and problems than you thought it would do. So he said it's never perfect. It's just you think it's going to be good, but when you get there, it's not what you expect. And the same applies to money. Somebody thinks, okay, I've got a job earning, let's say, 50 grand a year, and if I can earn 75 grand a year, my life will change, be so much better. I can pay my mortgage, my bills, everything else, and I can go on holiday and do those extra things. But when they get to 75,000, Kieran, they soon realize it's not enough. I need 100 or 150,000, and even if they get the extra, they're always catching up because it's not what they think it's going to be.
So what you're saying is money really can't buy happiness.
I don't think money can ever buy happiness. What money can do is buy you things which may make you happy in the moment, but it never buys you eternal happiness, and it never buys you happiness that you think it's going to buy you. You know, buying nice things, whether you want to buy a new watch or a car or a house or things for your loved ones or clothes or whatever it might be, will give you that instant happiness. But after a day, 2 week, month, however long, it soon dies out. You know, but the thing that one of my mentors shared with me, said, and he talked about when he bought a new Rolls Royce back in the 80s, and when they weren't as popular as they might be today.
I mean,
he said,
that would be nice.
It would, wouldn't it? He said the excitement of the car is the night before it arrives. He said that's when you're really happy and you're excited. Once you've got it, you sit in it, you drive around once, twice. He said, then you're thinking, next, what's next? Do you know what I mean? So no matter what it is, once you've got it, then you're aiming towards the next thing, which isn't a bad thing, by the way, because that's called desire, ambition, and linked with that, obviously, there's something called being grateful for what you have. But we're always
As long as you control it in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gives you a small dose or hit of happiness. And then if you're not happy internally with who you are and your values and your identity and what you believe, then having more of anything isn't going to fix that for you. It's an internal thing which you need to reconcile with, and you need to be congruent with that.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, I guess we've already covered one of the other myths, that money changes people, because, you know, as we've said, money doesn't change people. Money exaggerates who you are. It perhaps exaggerates you. It doesn't change you. It allows you to be more honest, because, you know, if you're not, how many people want to have certain conversations with their boss or say certain things to their boss, but they can't because they need their job? They need absolutely. That. You know, you keep your mouth shut because you've got bills to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
If money wasn't an object and you didn't need to worry about it, what would you say to certain people? You'd be honest with them because you could afford to be honest.
Absolutely. And tell them as you see it.
You know, and if you think they've made some clerical errors in their time, you'll probably pull them up on it. If you feel that they don't, you know, but congruently, you know, as you say, if you are surrounded with good people and supportive people and stuff, if money suddenly becomes no object to you, all you're going to want to do is raise them up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you've got less to lose, so you'll speak your mind, and that's another interesting one I hear people say. As in, I say it as it is, and I say, no, you don't say it as it is. You say it as you see it.
Yes.
Just because you see it that way, that doesn't mean that is as it is. That is as you see it.
If you stand at either ends of a parking lot on the number 6/9 on opposite ends, and there are no other numbers around it, you could spend the rest of your life arguing with the person on the opposite side what number that is.
Yeah.
Just based from your point of view.
Yeah, because that's your reality at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it's a famous story about Bill Gates, who he didn't have enough money to buy a newspaper, yet the newspaper vendor gave him the newspaper on 2 separate occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Later, when Mr. Gates had, become successful, he'd made all his money, he went back and found that newspaper vendor and offered, a substantially, uptick in value. And the vendor allegedly said no, because he gave him something when they both had nothing. Now Bill Gates has everything. What he's offering is a very small portion of what he's got. So he's not giving the same equivocal value. So it doesn't mean the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that, different people have different views on how that money changes people or doesn't change people. It allows you to be more honest.
Yeah, because I mean, fairness is subjective. What's fair to you might not be fair to me, might not be fair to somebody else, and then it depends on the situation, the circumstances, the needs, so on and so forth, in terms of what's fair. So that person didn't think what Bill was doing was fair, and Bill probably thought it was very fair, as in he gave me or she gave me a newspaper or two, which might have cost $1 or $2, and now I'm giving them, let's just make a number up, $1 million, okay? And that buys you a lot of newspapers. So he thought he was fair. The other party thought it wasn't fair because based on where they both started. And so you're never going to get to a place where both agree, I guess.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. The next myth about money, and this is one of my favorite ones. I enjoy this one. Money is scarce.
Oh, yes, it's running out. There's only a finite amount. It's limited. So
it's not.
We better hold on to it.
Money is limited.
Plenty of it.
There is plenty of it. There is money everywhere you look.
Yeah.
You just have to know how to tap into it. I mean, the idea that money is scarce. Well, okay, how come? We have discussed the traits money likes, and on previous episodes, and but if you start displaying those traits, you'll start realizing how money navigates towards people with specific traits and certain traits. It doesn't mean it's scarce. It just means that you're not. If you have a lack of money, maybe you should look at why. And before anyone says it, because the first answer is always, oh yes, but I don't get paid enough. We'll get on to how people think salary equals that's points further. That's a point about myths further down, but we'll put a pin in that. Come back to it later.
But I'll tell you what. People who think money is scarce are usually, and above, like we've said many times before, because we can't keep qualifying every single sentence, because we're always going to find somebody that doesn't apply to for whatever reason or circumstance. Generally speaking, people who say money is scarce is because they have a scarce mindset and not an abundant mindset.
Yes.
Or a mindset of abundance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. But I think also there is and I think this is a very true adage, is if you can't manage £10, you can't manage £100. If you can't manage £100, you can't manage 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million,
you're gonna
whatever.
Bigger and worse, aren't you?
Yeah.
As the numbers get bigger. Yeah.
So this is all so the scarcity goes hand in hand with money management. If you can manage a smaller amount, you'll learn, you'll grow, and as you grow, you'll manage bigger and bigger and bigger amounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And with quantitative easing, we saw how much money the governments around the world have printed and are printing from time to time, and it's all the effects of inflation, etc., etc. We won't cover today because we talked about that on other episodes too. So it really isn't scarce, and if you look at the amount of money people have saved in their bank accounts collectively as a nation, let's look at England or the UK. Now it's, I think a couple of 100 billion, if not more, just in the UK. That's
Well,
a
I mean,
huge money, huge amount of money.
Huge number.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we discussed last week, wasn't it, that in lost money, there's £50 billion in lost money in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't say that there isn't any money about. 50 billion lost, let alone what's in active accounts.
Exactly. So there's plenty there for everyone.
Yeah, there is plenty there for everyone. The next myth that we're going to go into: money isn't everything, and lottery money never lasts. And this goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about money management, wealth management, understanding money, and educating yourself about money and about wealth. Yes, there is a catalogue list of lottery winners who have had the hundreds of millions and spent it all, lost it all, got rid of it all, managed to lose it all. And that's really fascinating for me, because those are really case studies in what not to do.
Yeah.
And, I'm not disrespecting anyone on their life choices. It's not what I would have done. If I played the lottery in the first place, if I played the lottery and won the lottery, then, the first thing, that the first couple of thousand would be spent on education, learning. Even hundreds of thousands would be spent on education and learning, so that I could learn to manage that amount of money.
Absolutely. And the first part of that, though, when you talk about money isn't everything, and that's absolutely true. Money isn't everything, but money was never supposed to be everything in the first place.
No.
So why think of it like that? It's a bit like the Einstein quote. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you live your life thinking that a fish is stupid.
Yeah.
So if you live your life to think money is everything, then you're gonna or isn't everything, then you're gonna always be anti that. It's not meant to be everything. It's just meant to be, like we said, a means of exchange. Simple as that. Anybody who thinks he's everything or isn't everything, both of those are wrong.
Yeah. In the capitalist world in which we live, and this is something that a lot of people I have found in my experience tends to kind of argue against. And it's some people's favorite argument. Oh, it shouldn't be that way. No, I might agree with you. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. And this comes back to what we were saying right at the top of the show about reality. Yes. I agree. We shouldn't be paying as much as we do for our fuel bills, but we are. That's an objective fact. But
that was one of those, and I can't remember how many there were now, but there's a number of traits Napoleon Hill mentions in Think and Grow Rich, which was based on research and interviews of the richest and most successful people around the United States during that time. And one of them is accurate thinking. And accurate thinking is based basically on not how you want things to be, how you think things should be, how you'd like things to be, how you feel they ought to be, okay, or how you think that you want them to be to make your life easier and better. That's not what reality is. Reality is what it is. If you see it in a different way, for whatever reason, then you need to change that the best that you can. But just because you see things in a certain way, that's not what reality is, and that's I guess that's the point you're making.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I for example,
they are not like you want them to be.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I don't think it's fair that there are people that are wealthier than me in the world, and I think that every one of them should donate money towards me so that I can become the wealthiest person in the world, which would be lovely. But that's not objective reality. It's never going to happen that way.
Exactly. And just to be clear, by the way, I'm not saying that we accept things as they are. We accept them for being as they are right now, and we can work towards a better future, a better vision, a better tomorrow, and work towards changing things. But you got to be clear on the starting point. This is how things are, and now I think they ought to be different. So let me work now towards making them different, because I can see that where I want things to be and where they are, okay, are two very different places. So let's work towards that change. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. Always work towards the
you've got-
change. My next point about money myths is that all debt is bad debt.
Mhm.
Now, there are...
And what's your view on that, Kieran?
Well, I personally believe that debt, like money, is a tool. If used correctly, it can be used to allow you to generate cash flow. It can be used to allow you to have appreciating assets. It can be used to develop existing skills to allow you to generate more cash flow, more assets. So, but I think a lot of people's only contact with debt or only understanding of debt is things like loans and credit card debts and payday loans and things like that. And those are, they cost you money. They don't make money. They don't invest in something. So by the transient properties of whether what you're getting out of it versus what you're putting into it, yes, I consider those bad debt.
And I think it's important that you and I are clear here, because knowing people from different backgrounds, you and I know that certain people don't believe in debt because of their personal belief.
Yeah.
Most certainly don't agree with paying or charging interest, and that's absolutely fine. But when you and I talk about debt, what we generally mean is getting money from an outside source. Now, this could be a joint venture partner who's an investor in a business, okay? And that debt isn't debt in terms of you have to make a monthly repayment usually, or you pay interest on the money. That debt is that that capital has been invested by somebody, so the business is in debt to them, as in it needs to repay that back in terms of some kind of growth in capital value.
Yes. Yeah.
So what we mean, some form of money injection into the business. How it comes and what one is comfortable with is down to each individual.
Yeah, what vehicle you use is down to you. We're not financial experts, advisors.
In terms of obviously being investment advisors, but we're also not here to tell people, go to the bank or a bank and get a loan and pay interest, because if people aren't happy with that, absolutely don't do it.
Yeah.
But you've got other avenues where you can have investors who fund a business, but even then they want some kind of a return. So it is like a debt, but it's not from an accounting terminology and in finance speak. It's not debt per se, but loosely speaking, it's debt because they still want their money back.
Yeah, and I mean, if I go to the bank
and get their money back, they might not get their money back because the business might not do well, but in their own books, they see that as money that ought to be repaid to them in some way at some point in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I could go to a bank and take out a loan to start a business, or I could go and see Uncle Shaz and ask Uncle Shaz if he wants to invest in the business with me and become a partner. They're, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, exactly. So what we mean is capital injection.
Yes.
Okay, and some people aren't comfortable with that because, as you said earlier, and you made a very good point. Somebody who can't manage £5 or £10, using the number you used, will struggle with 100,000, 10,000, so on and so forth. And the same with capital injection. It needs to be used wisely and properly and strategically to create a sustainable return.
Yes.
And if you do that, okay, that capital injection, wherever it may come from, in terms of bank or otherwise, is going to serve you well. If you don't use that wisely, it'll be the worst thing you've ever done, because now you've taken money from a source and you can't repay it. Well, that's gonna spell problems for you.
Yeah, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, isn't it? Is that if you have what I would consider good debt, whether it's a JV partner and cash injection, whatever, to purchase a cash flowing asset, like I'll borrow or go into partnership with someone that's got enough money to do a commercial conversion, for example, because you and I like commercial conversions.
Yes.
And then that commercial conversion company that we set up together, I do all the work. The conversion happens. We get tenants in. They pay rent. We get cash flow. Well, now the amount that partner B has injected into, or the amount I have borrowed to get this up and running, kind of becomes irrelevant, because now I've got cash flow. So we're splitting the cash flow. Now we've got long-term capital appreciation. We've got a business. We've got and in a lot of cases, especially for commercial conversions, you can generally refinance if that is your choice, to take some of the money back out and continue paying people back and balancing the books and making sure everything's even. Whereas if I borrowed that same amount of money and went and bought a Ferrari, I'm in trouble.
Yes, apart from the night before when you're excited about it.
Yeah, or Rolls Royce. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to sell everything else and sleep in the Rolls Royce. Should probably get one that's got enough space for me to sleep in.
Yes, but absolutely, exactly. Make the best use of it. Sweat the asset. But I mean, in terms of debt, what it could be is somebody could have a buy-to-let house, for example, and they sell their house and they use those proceeds after they've paid any tax, if they have to pay any tax on that particular transaction, and loan that money to their limited company, and that.
Yeah. You loan that money to that particular company, and then it all comes through to where you wanted it to make said investment. I've just lost Shaz, the power of technology. So I will try and get him back shortly. But we will get there. We will get there. But as we were saying, so there are such things as good debt and bad debt. But it's what you do with it that counts. And that moves me on nicely to my next point is, it's not the amount of money that you have, it's what you do with it that counts. And because just having a lot of money doesn't solve all your problems. It won't solve all your problems. It won't allow you to lost my train of thought there. It won't allow you to just sit there and accumulate. You've got to be active with your money to get your money to do something. So fundamentally, once you've got some money, then however you choose to get it, whether it's through work, whether so on and so forth, then sitting on it doesn't make you active with your money to do something. And sorry, I am I do apologize, listeners. I'm tripping over my words because I'm currently trying to multitask, and as we all know, clearly I can't multitask very well. I can't talk and think at the same time. So just trying to get Shaz back online, but at the moment, we will continue on, carry on regardless. Great song, Carry On My Waywards. Anyway, so going back to other myths about money is, it's best to pay off your debt before starting to invest. Now, a lot of people, when they start getting into money and start thinking about wealth generation, wealth acquisition, pushing forwards, and all of that fun stuff where learning about money, learning to control 5, 10, £100,000, the initial thought is, well, I can't start thinking about that until I'm debt free. Must be debt free. Must be debt free. Debt free first. If it's the right sort of debt, then, as we've just discussed, good debt can lead to cash flow assets, can lead to capital growth assets, can lead to business ventures, joint ventures, businesses in general. Either way, that debt has generated more than its cost, in whichever way it's cost. So no, you don't have to clear all your debt. You can use that debt strategically, smartly, to start generating assets that will give you a good investment. So that's what I would do with that. Next on my list is things like wills, insurances, life cover are for the older individuals. And I include this in. It's not directly related to money, but it is, because now we're talking about legacy planning. We're talking about what happens after you go, or what's going to happen in this eventuality or that eventuality. Are you cut? This is just about pre-planning, and you know, I hope that the worst doesn't happen to anyone, or that people don't, get anything. But going back to a previous point, what I hope, what I wish, what the world would be like, isn't the reality of the world. I can't stop things from happening to people as much as I wish I could. So thinking about wills, pensions, insurances, things like that early on will serve you well long term. And it's a myth that it's just for when you get older. It's not. It's for now. It's for everybody. And you can change them. You can update them. You can move on from them. They're not, once you've done something once, it's not set in stone. It's not fire and forget. It's, a constant, continual, as my life changes, I update this. As this changes, I update that. As this changes, I need to change that. So it's all organically growing with you as an individual. The next myth is that it's too late to start investing. It's too late. It's never too late, as long as you're sensible with it. If you are going to, take out all of your savings and throw them at one thing, and then that one thing doesn't work, yeah, you're absolutely right. That was a bad move. That was dumb. Shouldn't have done that. That didn't work. But if you're sensible with these things, it's not about putting big chunks in straight away. You can invest slowly. You can invest diversely. Be diverse in your investments. Not so diverse that you overstretch yourself and you've got £5 in 200 different ventures. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. But don't have 1,000 baskets for 10 eggs. So you've always got that option that if something fails, something else succeeds. Something that I learned a long time ago was that if you invest in 10 different avenues, and the potential growth for each of those avenues is, say, 10 times the amount you invested, because you've done your research, between 8 and 15 times. So I'll average it out at 10 just because it's easy for the numbers. But you have a cutoff limit of 50%. So once you've lost, half the amount, or even all the amount you can afford to lose in some cases. But I've got 10 of these. So I put £100 in all of these. So I've spent £1,000, £100 in each of these ventures. Now, that first venture fails miserably. I lose the full £100. Okay. I've now got £900 invested and £100 completely lost. The next 8 I lose all my £100. Oh, great. So now you've lost, £800 all told. Things are looking, but, you'd invested in 10 things. Those last two do the, aforementioned 10 times growth. So those last two have made you £2,000. You've doubled your money. Now, a cynic might say, yes, but if I'd only invested 500 in each of those, I'd have made a lot more money. Yes, you would have done. But how do you know which two are going to make it? You don't. So, that's about, you don't, it's not too late as long as you're sensible. And you shouldn't just invest in one thing or invest without researching or anything like that, or speaking to professionals, because I am not one of them. This is just from my experience. And on the flip side of that, trying to find, I'm going to use the word schemes, that guarantee zero risk. It's been my experience that zero risk in and of itself is a myth. Everything comes with a little bit of risk, and you need to ascertain your appetite to risk to decide whether or not you want to get involved in something or not. And, some people's risk tolerance is a lot higher than others. And in general, it's been my experience that the higher the risk, the higher the reward. But do the risks pay off as often? Maybe not. Is property, investing in property in general, a safe bet? Well, the phrase safe as houses exists for a reason. Will it make you a millionaire overnight? No. Not unless you're already a millionaire, then maybe. But that's just one of those things. The next myth is cash is the safest place for money. Or, money invested in hard assets is always ready to help you in emergencies. That's a myth. If you've invested your money in solid assets, it's not fast, it's not quick. Taking money out of, extended, investments takes time. So it's very illiquid. But money as cash is very liquid. You can have access to it straight away, but it's not making you money. So this comes down again to the risk tolerance and the myth of how fast money moves. Is cash always best? No. Cash is king. Cash flow is king, not cash. Cash flow. If you've got a regular source of cash flow coming in, you've always got access to cash. That's very quick. But the big chunks of cash in emergencies are going to be tied up in assets, and assets take a while to sell, and so on and so forth. So, that's the next. And the next myth on the same sort of level of that is, I need to wait for the right time. And whether that's in the housing market, whether it's in the stocks and shares, whether it's in Forex, it doesn't matter. People always say, oh yeah, I was going to get into that. I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm waiting for the next big dip. I don't have a crystal ball. I couldn't tell you when that dip is. And there are so many moving parts in all of these things. I'm just waiting for the right time. The right time was 20 years ago. The second right time is now. Don't wait. You'll win some, you'll lose some. Things fluctuate, they go up, they go down. There is, over time, very rarely the wrong time to do things. When something completely crashes and burns and completely dies a horrible death, all right, fine. But with enough due diligence and enough research, you should be able to look and see, aside from things completely outside of your control, what sort of trend things are going in. So waiting for the right time is a myth. Don't wait for the right time. see what you're going to do now, and then adapt accordingly. So next on my list of myths is all my problems will be solved with money. I like that one because everyone, and by everyone I'm generalizing, but a lot of people just assume that if they had a sudden big influx in money and cash injection into their bank account, all their problems would be solved. Bigger bank balance equals bigger problems. And yeah, the people who are wealthy have different problems. People who are poor have different problems. There are problems at every level. It's bigger thinkers think about and contribute to solving bigger problems. And that the same is true of money. Just because you have more doesn't mean you have less problems. In a lot of cases, you sometimes have more problems. But it's about managing those problems and how you manage those problems that you need that you should look at. The next myth is it's always better to buy a house than to rent a house. And we have run the numbers before on somebody who owns a house, then sells the house and uses the proceeds to generate a rental business or investment business, or uses their house, the sale of the house, to go into rented accommodation, and then uses that money to create a cash flowing business, which then makes it easier to live and do what they want. They've got more cash flow, more money, more assets. And okay, they started with a house, so that's where we started in that particular scenario. But even if you are renting and you're saving towards a deposit for a house, or you could use that deposit to invest in various different things, different avenues, to create, again, cash flow, assets, something that produces money, something that gives you a return on your investment. So it's not always a case that buying a house and owning a house is better than renting a house. It depends on your own personal situation and your own personal goals. One of my goals in life was always, since I was a kid, was to own property, own my own property, live in my own house. I didn't want to rent for long term. So, but that's me. That's not everyone. And could I sell that house now and use that money to invest in other things? Absolutely, I could. Am I going to? Probably not. But the truth is, I could. And taking that pin out from what Shaz and I was discussing earlier, higher salary equals higher wealth. Not always true, because unless you are extremely disciplined, a lot of people, if you somehow, and okay, this was many years ago, I could live, and I did live, on 12.5 grand a year. How, I'm not entirely sure, but even with inflation and things going up, if I still had that lifestyle, then the extra I now earn through investments, through jobs, through salary, etc., would give me a really good base to put savings aside, to invest in other projects, to do other things. But I don't, because my lifestyle has risen to match my salary. And that is true of a lot of people. Is if you're earning £50,000, if you're earning £25,000, your lifestyle matches your salary. So there's very rarely, unless you're very disciplined, is there that excess spare cash you thought you would have. And the final myth that I think about wealth and about money is that it's possible to get rich quick. I have never seen a get-rich-quick scheme that works. I've never met someone who got rich overnight, short of lottery winners. And all these overnight successes that people hear about, they were 25-year overnight successes. They have been working hard for a long time to achieve their overnight success. So That is a brief rundown and a list of some myths associated with wealth and money.
Thanks for listening to Wealth Made Simple. You can follow and contact Shaz on the Facebook pages Entrust Property Tax and The Profits Wizard. You can also find Shaz on LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram. Alternatively, email him at shaz@aa-accountants.co.uk. Build your wealth by mastering money.